remember, so let's move and first.
Do you have a copy of the text? Copy of the text.
Oh, you do have it. Okay.
So we'll begin with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Ultra Peak Mountain, a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of the lineage train wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are born and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They need to decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomenon. There is no quality of sight and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom, and have become true, complete Buddhas of unsurpassable perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisattva. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he spoke well. Well done, O son of the lineage it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you were taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Namadang Poja Sonjam Yama Jansam Kangi Lojo Temi Dendra Nina Nanda Rapseve Chini Gangu Jise Niji Tuga Lepangse Kanda Sibe Zomra Mari Monton Dungi Jisebe So Urchi Tase Yama Ruchu Yandensu Rutar Chudu Nyamo Nimo Ligi Tadu Duzechi Mari Musa Dunya Yu Chini Chase Rodina Tani Dachi Sadu Tatsu Yute Suzo Jise Tuhu Juda Judan Juni Gitre Talu Mese Jame Yama Om Arahasanadi Om Arahasanadi Om Arahasanadi Seden Chuki Kera Buseji Talu Timu Mumarasene Kadan Tenju Shunu Tompayi Lotu Bobe Nawa Setu. Continue the short mandala offering on page 16. Saji Buddhi Juye Trodram Rera Liji Ike Mahadi Sanye Shilu Nite Buhai Tugo Nanga Jima Jumasho Jetsun Lama Dampa Kinangi Chuku Kala Jisi Jidine Chidra Sambe Duje Mala Sagi Chuni Chama Madhus Lam Guru Rajana Avala Continue with the refuge prayer on page 2. Sanjay Jodan Soje Chonamla Chancho Padu Agni Kapsachi Agi Chunyan Pesonamki Rola Penchia Sanjay Ruharasho Sanjay Jodan Soje Chonamla Chancho Padu Agni Kapsachi Agi Chunyan Pesonamki Rola Penchia Sanjay Ruharasho Sanjay Jodan Soje Chonamla Chanchu Padu Dani Kapsachi Dagi Chinyan Pesonamki Rola Penchia Sanjay Ruharasho.
다음은 거기 된다. 슝디 공부를 아니 코란디 다 기록 쓰는데도 초보 쓰는데도 기본 대저 상보라야 아니 라제노와게 아니 사실 기본 대저 상보라 라제노와게 아니 슝 11딩이 제 다시 11딩이 생기 된 규리 자체 안에 기본 대주 성불로만 다가서 그래. 디 예우도 바탕바스라와 디 그런 게 아니디 야보체는 마세로 나세지 다되는 마 칭되는 마 연대라지 그걸 다게 내세야 되는데 공부로기 아니 기본 대주 성불에 다지라 아니 아야디 디신시베 산지기 마 송샤조기 전단님부 도도제네 디나나 송유 니데기라게 야보체는 마 생고레스 아니 디 칭트즈다 님보스 개총마서 칭트즈 님보스다 야보체 닝아라고 야보 총마서도 디나라야 아니 산지기 송 아니 베마스 야보데 디나마 송유 제자네 기라게 아니 칭트르야 녜보레스 용마샤데 야보체는 새로 나왔네 지지 당고된 이거게 된다고 되는데 되게 차를 했으면 좋겠어요.
So the text that we were discussing is it's a letter to a friend by Nagarjuna, which is Surilika in Sanskrit, which is translated in English as
We need to turn your volume up.
Yeah, it's hard to.
So here, the text of letter to friend by Nagarjuna. Is that okay?
Yeah,
You guys
that's
hear
fine.
me? You guys hear me? Okay. It's Nagarjuna's letter to friend is the friend that's his friend, one of the king by the name of Surabhipatra. King Gechis on him to that, which is Surabhipatra in Indian name. So this particular text is written by Nagarjuna to send this text to his friend, King Surabhipatra. And then this text then begins with the commentary of this text begins with Senjigun Gyogichara, which is the meaning of the name Suralika, the meaning of the title of the text, or the title of the text is the letter to friend, which literally means letter to friend. That's it. And the next follows the translator's salutation or the homage, translator's homage for the then will followed by the actual meaning of the subject matter and conclusion. So those are the four main outlines within which this entire teaching of the letter to friend is taught. So the first we have discussed on meaning the title, name of the title of this text, and then translator's salutation verse. And then we also covered first two verses of the actual text itself. The verse that encourages listeners, encouraged by Nagarjuna by saying, It is worldwide. It is encouraging kings and as well as others who are interested in receiving these teachings must listen. So this means encouraging to listen to these teachings. And then the next is, even though the verse that I've written is not beautifully done, so long as the actual meaning of the teaching is concerned, it's all traceable to the teachings of the Buddha himself. So therefore, it is worthwhile to listen to his teachings. So those two verses that we have discussed in our previous sessions.
这刚经济的多少？
啊
他的这个经济的其实的学者的他的他结果的就上不起来给吐了呀，安尼三节个马送下就给吐去给老家这种结果的，轻个有起来给吐是去参不来，因那样，安尼他的电脑嘛，现在需要的，安尼肯定是意思呢，起来的，安尼吐了去参就给。 그 양직 야 최소나야다 되게 제도 양교로 옛날로送的 인스 그 가르에서 나니 차샤비나 또 되게 주변도 간보게 된데 봐 주셔버게 아니 칸바데라야 다고 보나 양교야 가르 두고나지 계란기 툴을 취대죠 취대 양교내야 최소나야 제도야 아니 세리 단계 인스 대체
So the next is again, Nagarjuna is encouraging his king by saying that even though you may have received the teachings of the Buddha in the past, but it is again here worthwhile to listen again and again the teachings of the Buddha, because this enables one to recall the teachings that one had received earlier, and as well as that solidify the teachings that you have received earlier. And so therefore the verse 3, it clearly mentions that although a proportion of the reminiscent words of the great sage Buddha may already have entered your heart, it means that you may have heard that before, but isn't something made of limestones made even wider by the light of winter's moon.
어디서 다 계산 조사를 아니 나 드링들이 막 세제 시거든이 막 세제 시거든이 말이다 다시 무엇이들이 중국인들이 세제 시거든이 아니 계산 책강 정보의 수지 샤샤 계획 산지 최다 기능다 동다 최진 하지 전부 중 rab도까지 대다 소소이 연대 처지 제수 전부 이세 제된 조근냠는 세들에 다데 제된 조근냠는 세데 아니 산지 좀 된게 가데스까지 요래서나 아니 마음이 공비 제중나게 아니 상계다 최 긴뇌체 때문에 군주 숨도체 개요 제라야 아니 동화세대 지바다야 아니 추림송야 아니 지바다마다 추림송마라 때네 모두 함이 고분투야 되게 예를 따라 생각나가 제den스도 말아 셈나가 맞이벌어야 예를나야 셈나가 야돼야 될 제수치고 하스네 어디 사지 좀 된대지 막가나셔서 소자 대요 내게 쳐도 좀 예를 따라 챈바시네 아니 셈나가 야고야 되지레스
So then it's the verse 4 onwards is the teachings, that is what we call the beginnings of the actual teachings of the subject matter of the text. Therefore, it says there are 3 outlines to elaborate what is the actual teachings of this text. Versus The first is the summarized presentation of the three scopes, teaching presentation of the practice of three scopes, and then detailed explanations will then be followed by extracting all those essence and how to follow practice. And then first here, the verse, it says, with regard to the first outlines, summarized presentation of the teachings with three scopes, as again, three more outlines, which is the part shared with the small scopes, part shared with the medium scope, part of great scopes. And when it comes to the part shared with the small scopes, it's a two. First, taking refuge in three jewels, and this will then be followed by how to practice law of cause and effect. In other words, how to appreciate law of cause and effect. So now, the first, with regard to the practice of the small scopes, here then it says, practice of small scopes begin from the verse 4, where it says, the triumphant has proclaimed 6 objects for continual mindfulness, the Buddhas, the Dharma, and Sangha, generous giving, ethical discipline, and gods. We're continually mindful of the mass of good qualities of this. So now here, when one enters into the practice of Dhamma, one will do so with taking refuge in three jewels, without which one will not become Dhamma practice. So Dhamma practice must be done on the basis of taking refuge in three jewels. Therefore, here Nagarjuna emphasizes on whoever would like to receive the teachings of the Buddha Dhamma and practice the Buddha Dhamma, and becoming oneself as a practitioner of the Buddha Dhamma, must take refuge in three jewels. In order to take refuge in three jewels, one must always remember the qualities of the three jewels, qualities of the Buddha, qualities of the Dhamma, qualities of the Sangha, which will then follow by the remembrance of this, generous giving, ethical discipline, and a God, and continually mindful of massive good qualities of this.
다디나나야 나데치제디나나야 아니 상기 추 기뉴 제스 테고레 소야되기 아니 점도되기 요레스 점도되야데 근데스나 다 원래 셰비나 아니 강사 산지비 취직이 이인바다 멤버의 참례 점도피 아니 그것이 상로당다지 간들에서나 레도차베 로지레스다 저거자베 로지 대 간들에서나 아니 수수기 세마토야 강에 수수기 주마토야기 아니 대화지 주야다 수수기 세마토야기 강에지 세야지라야 아니 수수기 지마토도 다시 다지라 저거자고요 가리미나 이제 이제 좀 말하다 말아서 가서래 동네에 때도 제와지다 때도 대화지를 말아서 ჩვ는 좀 두고요 말다 좀 두고요 다들 좀 tum수리 말아서 깨워랑 친진 깨워대 통화랑 친진이 이제 말아서 수수도 대회 던다라 짱짱 깔리 잡이 요래도 이나야 다다바도라야 대화타도 거지 좀 두고요 말에 동네에 아니 이제지 빵도요 말에 그 가르치면서는 말아서 다들 대화 중단 마시마다 동네 뽕당 마시마잖아요. 대대진의 말한소 대를 하되게요. 이들 zambalaya 당가랑속에 대화 중단다 동네 빵당에다 신다지를 저와점내로와 신다지를 저와점내 제상 말한속에 대대체들 zambalaya 다 대대게 저와데 가와게 하고 그랬으나 아니 동네 탐지리 빵상에 제가 탐제다 얘기 되게 간사지는 내려봐도 자고 요래서 제가 그래서나 아니 ram동에 탐제를 줘 신동에 탐제를 줄 탈락해봐도 산지 좀 된데 야지로 어디라야 아니 제대 자고 그랬어.
So now, the taking refuge in individuals is a demarcation of whether the individual is the actual practitioners of Buddha Dharma or not. Demarcation that makes whether someone is actual practitioners of the Buddha Dharma or someone is not practitioners of Buddha Dharma. It's made on the basis of whether or not the individual has taken refuge in three jewels. So what is meant by taking refuge in three jewels here? The question that one may ask. Why we have to take refuge in three jewels? What is meant by taking refuge in three jewels? And who are those objects of three jewels? What object of refuge are to whom that we actually take refuge now? And this should be asked. This question should be asked to oneself always. So now, the reason why we take refuge in three jewels is the fact that we all long to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings. Not only this lifetime, but from the beginningless time of our life. We long to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings. However, we have not even achieved slightest perfect happiness of this life, as well as life of as well as numerous the past lives. Why that has happened, and what we need to do, what is really gone wrong, why we are unable to achieve happiness that we really long to achieve. Is now it is because that we are lack of proper taking refuge in three jewels. Now, if you really would like to achieve happiness, lasting happiness, or the ultimate state of happiness, we must take refuge in of the three jewels. Someone who has actually sufferings and their roots, and the ability to guide us how to take. Because when we take refuge in three jewels, we are taking refuge is that we are longing to achieve everlasting happiness. And we are, without knowing that, with the lack of such knowledge, we have remained in this unenlightened existence, though that we long to achieve happiness for a long time, as we talked earlier, but we are unable to achieve that. Why that is happening? It's because due to the lack of taking refuge in three jewels. Now, at this point, when we must recognize and remember the qualities of the three jewels and take refuge in three jewels, and hoping to, receiving some guidance from these three jewels to achieve everlasting happiness. So this can only be done someone who is enlightened, who actually have overcome their own sufferings, who have achieved lasting happiness or ultimate state of happiness, and who has a skill of guiding someone to the state of happiness.
Today doesn't matter. Generally, 소속의 동네 세메토거다 소속의 대원 주마토게 this 수주도 그랬으나 아니 라 동네 탐지를 줄 시엔 동네 탐지를 줄에 털어서 사진 전에 야지 세도 그랬어. 이 인상 아니 대답에 산지에 들어야 아니 접수 줘야 돼 준세 들었어. 산지 대양 아니 캠베요데 세베요데 뉴베요데 킨진 뉴스물 요데다 덴바지 아니 딘데지기 다 지당 사제 군주의 친이 망보샤요데 대 켄진 뉴스도 돼봐지 다 켄베 요데데 메비 예미나 아니 시에신지기 동네 세월ten LC 신진기 아니 삼바 지 가리바디 다컴 삼바다 바라면 가리는 저 친구들 팀마친 자 안에 켄베 요데 메비나 신신지기 된 지도 말했어 켄베 요데 요베 있나야 아니 집에 요데 메비 예미나 아니 신진 가시게 되어져봐라 가시게 되어가지고 이제 신지 탐지게 되어지고 말 집에 있는 맵이나 다 킨진이 연아야 아니 신야 동네에 껴베 누가 맵이 이미나 아니 신신지 동네에 껴두고 맵이 연아야 아니 켜베 요네 집에 요네 숨 킨진 내숨이 요네다는데 사지 보죠 어디
So here, let's talk about the Buddha, the first refuge. Our three refuge, the first we take refuge in Chichos, the first we take refuge in Buddha. So what is the characteristic of the Buddha? The qualities of the Buddha in other words. And how to actually overcome all sufferings. Buddha is someone who possesses the quality of knowing, having a genuine sense of caring and loving for others, and a great power. Those are the three qualities only the enlightened beings possess. So this is for this reason why we're taking refuge in Buddha. This is the character the Buddha can. Those are immaculate attributes to be able to free other sentient beings from sufferings and establishing other sentient beings to the state of happiness. If it is because of Buddha's qualities of knowing, particularly knowing the inclinations and dispositions of other sentient beings, so that Buddha can guide them to the proper directions based on the individual's inclination and the dispositions. And even though if someone has this quality of knowing, if they lack the genuine love and sense of connectedness, a sense of caring for others, then suddenly would not be able to, overcome, not be able to guide other beings to overcome their sufferings. So therefore, Buddha possesses the quality of this genuine loving kindness towards others. And then not only that, but also Buddha has the power to protect other sentient beings from suffering and have the power to establish other sentient beings to a state of enlightenment, state of complete enlightenment. So this is the brief characteristics of the Buddha. The Buddha who is endowed with these three characters of knowing. Its knowing can be referred to, the wisdom that is a reality. But in this particular context, the knowing is a knowing and understanding of the inclination and disposition of other beings. And someone who possesses these characters and who is endowed with these attributes can only overcome the suffering of others, establishing others to the happiness, the state of happiness.
어떤 점에서 산이야 연대 대답을 제 아니 다 대송샤베 체 사제게 막 동네 대대서 빵고래 동네 빵당 빵로 대대지 아 동네 위에 자와 군중대 봤은 날에 다 돼서 대대 빵고요래 스마 숨샤교체 아니 대화 대대 두고요래 아니 니 정다 아니 자주를 쓴다 양답에 따와 돼서 아니 야 대화 주기하기 다 사제게 살아줘야 라무터서래 돼서 도스 수유라는 규를 낸거래 다 단지 말을 받아 랑진진당 아니 대자시다 뒷물로서 버티는 빵고래서 막 송샤교기 최대로야 아니 롱기 최군조체 다 사제 군조기 막 송제로야 대소 냠렌체니 랑기 규로야 사제 송샤교도 냠렌체니 아니 랑기 규로야 뭐네 동네 빵배 빵과 고대나 아니 동네 빵야기 람렌테서 규로 제대기 강사대서 규로 예대베기 동번이 돈이도 배시라다 자주기 생각서 봐서 아니 도배 최스 어디에 롱도의 최스 됐었어요.
So then here, the next we take refuge in Dharma, which is remembrance of the Dharma. So when it comes to the Dharma, they are of two kinds. One is the Lungi chip, which means the scriptural Dharma, and the other is the realization of Dharma. So there are two kinds. The scriptural Dharmas are scriptural Dharmas are Dharma that is being taught by the Buddha, such as how to eliminate, sufferings, or what is the cause of sufferings, and introducing the cause or actual source of suffering, such as origin of all. And by recognizing that, how one can develop disenchantment towards the sufferings, in other words, cyclic existence, and generate renunciations, and bodhicitta and wisdom realism emptiness, or the perfect views. That all these teachings are known as the scriptural Dharma. And once we have received all the scriptural Dharma, not only that we are intellectually understanding or just intellectually intellectualizing or verbalizing those scriptures, but one followed the practice of these teachings. And as a result of following this practice, one gained the realizations of emptiness, bodhicitta, and so forth, are said to be the realized Dharma, or the Dharma of realizations. And so, it is through receiving the teachings, the scriptural Dharma, one will be able to overcome our ignorance, self-grasping, self-cherishing, hatred, and so forth. So, on the basis of this, one will gain the cessation from all the sufferings, cessation from all these negative thoughts and emotions. Is said to be the cessation of sufferings, or the cessation of afflictions. And this is the actual Dharma. Also the path that leads to the cessation is said to be the actual Dharma. That's all.
우리가 어디지 때문에 김규군조 써야 되려야 다 김규군조 되려야 동이 무슨도 동반이 무슨도 도베게 저기 셈 줄을 요게 아니 강사지고 이래야 파베 강사 쓰는 거라 또 수수 기본이야 파바치네 말아서 다 동반이도 좀 마도베 강사서 수수 기본 쓰네 아니 코로나 동이도 무슨도 도이가 아니 대소라야 파베 강사 쓰네 대나바데 근데 동이 무슨도 도베 아니 셈이 줄을 요게 강사들 파베 강사치 대 아는 나라 중에 껴서 중에 기능군도지 다 되려야 돈이 무슨도 또 돈이 무슨도 또네 아니 된다고기 돈이 무슨도 왜 시바되게 답하게 유문을 카드잖아요 유문을 야 카드잖아 통보 카드잖아 되는 거는 그 유문 방배 제거통면서 안 되려야 리베이 된다는데 법에 강사하시니 리베이 되게 쓰기와 리베이 된다는데 법에 강사하시니 딱 다들 공대내 지 유목의 카드잖아요. 아니 가서 그래. 유목 군다의 초도 좀 파방제. 유목 군다다 현지 이시네. 군다의 초도 좀 파방제라야. 대내 파 최배 군다 대내 파 최배 간사되나야. 아니 최배 연된다는데 안 기도 군조스네. 저기 기도 군조니 되지 시작했어. 대대벽에 아니 산계지 최제 기도 대수물이야. 접수도 기대라야. 아니 남바산지로 쓰기랬어.
So then one can refuge in the Sangha. The refuge Sangha here refers to the individual Sangha who developed wisdom realizing emptiness, the direct realization, who gained the direct realization of emptiness is said to be the jewel Sangha. Not a Sangha in general, but it is a jewel Sangha that we're talking about here. As one of the three jewels, we take refuge Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So the refuge jewel, Dharma, must have these qualities, without which will not be considered or not be the actual jewel Dharma, also jewel Sangha. So therefore, such Sangha must have these qualities. And so not only that, gain wisdom realization emptiness, direct wisdom, direct realization of emptiness, but also who have actually, who actually either on the process of applying antidotes towards the intellectually acquired affections, or someone who actually completely overcome intellectually acquired affections. And this is the quality, the least quality must Sangha jewel must have. So without which, even though that person may be a Sangha, but it's not considered as a Sangha jewel.
어떤 된다고기 대리 점령 군주선을 접수 중에 간사되는 넘버 3제 버샤 다 된다고 넘버 3제 버들어야 양 좀버도 삼보당당면다고기 아니 간사 숨시하기래서 기부 충무 기부 딩 기부 침보스네.
So then someone who takes refuge in these three jewels is said to be the practitioner of the Dharma, or said to be entered into the gateway of becoming oneself as a Buddhist practitioner of Buddha Dharma. And then the individual who's taking refuge in three jewels and then practicing Dharma, they are of three different kinds that we already talked about earlier in our outlines. The practitioner of small scope, practitioner of the middle scope, and practitioner of the great scope.
네, 대리 말이야. 아니 기부 충수들 말이야. 기부 치마들이야. 아니 하다 미송 아니 여와이다 들을 게 뭐지? 들을 아니 기부 말이야. 탑시제네. 하다 미고바 투비하게 치도 아니 최체네. 된대기 남바사리비 최치기 되려야 아니 기부 충수제. 다들 기부 치마 장마세 코로나 때는 하다 미고바 도나야 가야미도 양교 기본에 양이 손을 두고도 코바디나 대친절이야 아니 대화지 자원이네 면도스 가나 동 가서 그랬다 다지 말에 원래 대사는 대화지 자원이네 면도 코바디네 타와 지구도 상기 난 대대 상목이네 아니 코바레 타바 되는 일이 취지게 되어야 기부 딩스체 다되네 나랑 타바 고방 동마야 아니 가서 그랬다 나랑 좀 타베 고방 동마야 아니 타반이 제발이자 텔레 게임도 텔레 심지어 탐지의 체도 아니 마마야 토마메번에 경기 경기 심지어 탐지의 체도 남긴 계획과 토바 제고도 상태 남긴 계획과 토야의 체도 체계 체계들 기부 침보스네 기부랑 다숨되지 이랬지 알았어.
So now here, the difference among those practitioners of medium scope, or the small scope, medium scope, and the great scopes are made on the basis of their motivations to engage to practice the Dharma, and their objective of practicing Dharma on the basis of taking refuge in rituals. The small scope's motivations is to practice, motivation of practicing Dharma is to mere aspiration to free themselves from low realms and aspiring to attain rebirth in a high realm, such as human gods and demigods, the realm of human gods and demigods. And someone who has these motivations and practicing Dharma is said to be a practitioner of the small scope. And then the next middle scope is not only that, but also, even though you may have achieved high rebirth, but you will still not be able to free yourself from sufferings of cyclic existence. So therefore, I must find a way to get out of this boundary of cyclic existence. And then engaging in the practice of understanding or identifying the root cause of cyclic existence, which is ignorance grasping itself. And by finding that and identifying the grasping as ignorance of grasping itself, applying attitude towards this, and developing a genuine disenchantment towards cyclic existence, and engaging in rigorous practice of achieving liberation is said to be the practitioner of middle scope. Then the great scope, the practitioner of the great scope is here now. Not only that it is not appropriate for me to achieve liberation for myself, but also I must work for the welfare of other sentient beings. I must work for the establishment of other sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, as all those sentient beings had been my mother in one of my previous lives. So therefore, I must remember their kindness and repay their kindness. The actual repaying their kindness can only be done on the basis of overcoming their sufferings, establishing them to the state of enlightenment. So therefore, I must engage in the practice of Dharma to attain complete state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And this is the great motivation, great practitioner breadth scope practitioners, their motivations.
다 되는 마음인데 다 담보 기부 총무되게 남대 연구해서 기부 총무대 담보 가르치고 그래서나 아니 산지 지역에 뉴스는 잡서 조사는 나버 산지에 대해 추산에 담보 가르치고 그래서나 아니 수림 승부부여래서 수림 미기 주봉 수림의 승부부여래 미기 주봉 대화가 제일 세고 있는 거가 기부 치마 모두 하면 고반도 발에 명목 방법이 말해 아니 미기 주봉 수림 야보지 미기 주디 야보지 손톱이 있나 아니 기와지마 모두 하면 고반도 두고요래 어디 수림 순해야 되지 다되네 다 기와지마 모두 하면 고반선 토바 이내베 이나야 대변이지 가서 그래 참미 고반 대베 미고반으로 버지 토바 이미나 대변이 쪼고 대대 가서 그래다 사주도주 풍대고를 못해 이미나 아니 양코 야보지 참미 고반 야보지만 인사 아니 대 제가 질문을 하면 고반 토바서 맞에 대야 아니 지 여제 몇번 같은데 영향을 제도 아니 세달에 미기 주봉 수준송 안디가 진바당해야 돼 쟤네 어디 기부 총무기냐면 지야절에서다 미기 주봉 수준송 해야 되다 진바당해야지 대 가르치도 지금에서는 기와지만 뉴스로서와 타당 미국 반도에 제도 지야 이해해야 돼 어디 기부 총무기 지야절에서 아니 어디 돌아야 아니 제대로 총쓰기였어
동화도 수준 단체 수준 단체 수준 동화제
수련제 받았으나 당분 매기 수련제는 매기 주봉 수련제 아니 다 개와지만 문을 하면 고만 토가 이미 있는 양 아니 되라야 다 여제 매봉 지용을 안데 동화세 지마 동화제 다 디니 또 가서 그래 디니 가바게치도 수림송야다 지마 동화에 가르치게였으나 아니 하지서 되면서디 뒤속을 하다 미 대대로 고반도 배치도 아니 수림소야다 아니 지방도 지야 있어.
So in this verse, here the verse actually talks about the practitioner of the small scopes, taking refuge in three jewels, and the practicing being mindful of practicing generosity, moral discipline, and remembrance of the gods, what it says. So, what is meant by remembering that's the practice of generosity is because even if one has taken even one has taken river within the human realms, if one lacks the resources, then one certainly will not be able to engage in the practice, will not be able to follow the practice. So therefore, in order to have a resource or the sufficient resource for one's practice to carry on one's practice, one should engage in the practice of generosity, or such as giving, the practice of giving, and practice of generous giving. And then this practice of generous giving must be based on observance of ethical discipline, mainly with the observance of tenfold path, or the tenfold virtuous path, and restraining oneself from the 10 non-virtuous activities of the body, speech, and mind. And then this practice belongs to this the practice of the small scopes or the small capacities. Its objective is to gain a rebirth in high realms, particularly of the realms, Deva realms, or the God realms, and demigods and human realms. So therefore, that is what is meant by, the discipline, continual mindfulness of the Buddha, Dharma, the Sangha, the generous giving, ethical discipline, and the gods. That is what it means.
어디지? 다들 치지 나와데 나가다 여기 동다 수준 시야게 아니 수준 시야데 다들 막 제시해 되는 만남도 다 기원치마 먼저 하면 고바치도 아니 수준 송고레스 딩가나야 진바당고레스 대송고라 다 되나게 수준 가르 송고레스 다 기원치마 먼저 하면 고바치도 수준 가르 송고레스나 아니 나한테 막 개별에 남주고 르다니 나다 얘기 따도 땡기지 있어봐 개별에로와 개별에 아니 주고디 개별에지랑 다야 개와지 먹어도를 세랑 이렇게 내 주고디 르제 아니 나지 얘기 따도 땡기지 가려이나디 그 담발 아니 소소게 송돼야 미게 원주 방법에는 대외에 주로가 될 송돼야 그래서 개가나야 창남len 레도 대신 개와이 소발라 영어보라 개보라 줘서와 다 개별에 넘치고 개별에 르기 레숨 나게 레시 이기레 숨을와 가사 르기레 얘기 숨을와 상세 나비시 얘기 숨 알아봐 다 르기레 대조치와 되는데 아니 르기레 소주가 마침벌레 마 메사와주가 숨부대체 아니 나게레 주 참아 지주 마게체 아니 어디 주디체
So the verse 5 here it talks about how one can develop a genuine appreciation to the law of cause and effect. In a commentary, it says how to practice law of cause and effect in particular verses, which means how one can generate a genuine appreciation to the law of cause and effect. So here the verse 5 here we read, always interest yourself with the body's speech and mind to the 10 pathways of the constructive karma. Turn away from intoxicants and likewise delight as well in livelihood that are constructive. Right? So now here he talks about, when we discussed on the verse 4, the fourth verse, where we talked about importance of observing, remembering, so the recalling the ethical discipline. So what are the ethical discipline that is to be observed, that is to be practiced, is it's actually mentioned in this verse 5, the fifth verse, where it says, always interest yourself with body, speech, and mind to the 10 pathways of constructive karma, turn away from intoxicants and livelihoods, delight as well in livelihoods that are constructive. So so what is it now with this kind of practice and understanding, one will develop a genuine appreciation to the law of cause and effect, so that one will be able to refrain oneself from engaging in actions that are destructive. So therefore, first we need to let's talk about the 10 pathways of constructive karma. It is the tenfold virtues, tenfold virtues, path. Tenfold the virtues path are refraining from three negativities, negative actions of the body, refraining from four negative actions from the speech, and the three negative actions from the mind, which all doing this becomes a 10 negative actions that is to be abandoned, and observing, the opposite of that is said to be the observation of the 10 pathways of constructive karma. So, as we are we're all familiar with this 10 non-virtuous actions or 10 virtuous path laws. But however, let's talk about here the 10 three actions of the body is taking the life of others, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and the four from the speech, lying, divisive speech, no, and gossiping, and harsh words, or offensive speech, in other words. And then from the mind, the three from the mind are wrongdoing, covetousness, and harmful thoughts. So those are the three negative deeds from the mind, and three negative deeds from one's body, and four from the speech. Four regarding speech must be abandoned.
어디를 제다디 제다버기가 미가 주고 뭐 처리됐다 남바 산제버기 지츠 첨제지 지첨제데 다 되랬어. 걔네는
So this 10 non-virtuous actions, abandoning 10 non-virtuous actions is the general ethical discipline that is required for all those practitioners of the Buddha Dhamma must observe.
배지 취로 참말로게 배지 되게 않는 제거에서 배지 망치와 집에 이랬어.
So most of the religion in this world, the believers have a similar kind of observance of ethical disciplines, like 10 virtues and 10 non-virtues.
다 제가야 아니 마 미게 주고들이야 류기네 당보 소주를 먼저 찾아와나 시 삼바 저거 타두스는 망보지 지야 요래되다 나도 된지 뭐고체 가나마다 남주 제가 담제 집에서 수준나도 아니 삼신도 생게 소주로 왔습니다. 된지 소나가 나가라는데 나라주의 그거 준지 매발에 삼신도 생게 소주야 배나 나와지기 되고 제는 야스인세야라고냐 차리다라고 들으세요라고 다 직제 들으지야니 내가 저기 방어야 지랬어. 아니 이번에 다 고모부야 세비 신경 놀아야 돼. 다 인증이 고모부스들이 지금 거기 오래 지금은 좀 제는 미강발 가나마나 유교체니 고고단내야 아니 지금 총장이래 지미나 아니 지금 장제로부터 대단한 고고단내야 가르치미나 미주지 수수기 여덟 제들에서는 상황 아니 저거를 나체내라고 그랬어. 걔네 저거 로바이 바데 다 창주 다 자원 많이 봐 기범이나 이나야 아니 랑게 사장 많이 봐 기범포이나 시험 품이다 기범모이나 시험 시행이 다 스스로 마음 받아서 다 그냥 저거 로바 제들이나 대라야 뭐 이런 걸 그랬어. 대조 맞아 르기레 수부디 데레스.
So now, if we go through this, the detailed explanation of the 10 non-virtuous actions, how those really become a 10 non-virtuous actions, it's in different degrees and different intensities of that. But we will not go through that at all. It's going to take very, very long time. It is a basis, motivation, actual execution of actions, and then conclusions are all that, and that requires a lot of explanation to it, so we're gonna go through that. So rather here now, let's talk about when one is taking a life of others. If one takes the life of others, intentionally, in other words, or intentionally such as, going for hunting, and your purpose of going for hunting is to taking the life of others, disregarding the life of others. You carry all kinds of weapons. You proudly, take those weapons and use these weapons to take the life of others, which actually is really, really sad. Such as fishing, killing other animals, butchering, and so on and so forth, are said to be the actual actions of killing, taking the life of others. As we as the practitioners, and this should not be done. One should refrain from engaging in such actions in whatever cases may be. From the depth of one's heart, one should always commit oneself not to do that. And then the next is the stealing. So we translate it in English as stealing, but in Tibetan it's called the things that is not given to you. You're taking things that is not given to you. It's not only that you're actually stealing, but you're snatching, you're cheating or betraying and so on and so forth. Even if you're having a business with someone, if you cheat that person, it's also belongs to the non-virtuous actions of the body, of taking the wealth of others, which is not given to you. You cheated that, and you're taking this by deceiving others, and that's also belongs to one of the negative actions of the body. And then finally, the third negative actions of the body is the sexual misconduct. And for the for the audience, the sexual misconduct of this, any form of sexual intercourse is forbidden. It is, this need to the audience must refrain from engaging in any form of sexual intercourse. And for the lay people, one should not have sexual intercourse with others, other than one's own spouse and so forth. And that is considered as sexual misconduct.
아야, 그게 숨대체 다 나게 되시리, 나보고는 주마와서도 좀 말이야, 아니 두시 중에 임바지 말해다 멤버지 임바라야, 배는 아니 나라도 미래지 두고 있나다고 지금 소속의 생각나네 돈이 맞춰봐서 지금 고통받을 수나리지 계획이나 아니 칸에 계란두가 가고 정수해야 되지 사비나 되라. 아니 저는 두고요레스 저는 책들이지 아니 참아서도 좀 발라 대도시지를 단미 신다지 계란을 미 신다지 계란을 된다는데 신다지 계란인데 미니기 발라 투신견에 미 신다 밤마쳐서야 돼 참아서야 돼 이게 도시 그래다 내가는 도시지를 저 참아 책주 대나네 책주지 소소롱랑 배달이야 밀려야 책주 쇼 안 대다라고 누가 저기냐 대다들 맞고는 롱나 책주 쇼서는 대다 주여 대다 이제 자원이 주여 요금도 안 되는 나라서 이 소변나야 용심발 대체 책주 걔네 말게서야 되다 전다 매버게 아니 주민주도세를 깨지시는데 된 투주기에 대한 들어가 계획은 된대지기 어려워 대다 나를 내신이 된대지랬어.
So here, the four regarding the speech, the first is lying. Lying is something that's very tricky here. You know, sometimes people will just say, even though that you are not happy to see that particular individual, but to make that person to please that person, you say, I'm so delighted to see you, but inside your mind that you have such a, you develop such a hatred and unhappiness with this individual, and you say that I'm so delighted, I'm so happy to see you, and giving hugs and shaking one's hand so tightly with that person and having a very wonderful eye contact with this person. It's actually lying. Lying is something that is very tricky. It happens to us all the time. It is just very, very tricky thing that we might not know that we are lying, but but unknowingly we are lying so many times. If you look at our day-to-day life, we are. It's very tricky. Something that is hard to observe. We can here to refrain ourselves from this line. And then divisiveness, the slandering, which is also a very, very bad thing, where that creates a disharmony among the communities, between two people, among the people, among families, friends, and so forth. And that is really, really unfortunate. One should not really have this kind of divisive thoughts, and don't let even have these motivations take place in our hearts. And then the last one is the another one. The third one is to the harsh words, which is also a very, very bad thing. With this kind of harsh words normally, spring from our impatience, negative thoughts. Harsh words will always happen that become offensive to the other person. And with such attitude, one will not be able to fulfill one's purpose. Even if you have to say something and you have some purpose of talking to that person, and you impatiently talk to that person and using these harsh words and the words that are offensive to that other individual, then you will end up arguing with that person instead of fulfilling your purpose. Your actual purpose of talking to this individual will not be there. So therefore, one should always remember and be mindful of not to engage in these harsh words. And then the gossiping is always happening. We do all this meaningless talk, chatter, and in fact, we take delight in that, laughing, cackling, and making all kinds of funs with others, and those are all, very unnecessary as a Christian.
아니 예일에 숨보디 낙심 뇌심 로다스 낙심 세야데 가르스나 다 그스베 차베셈도 신기 노롱주당 대조로 소바니 파 셈바쇼네 나라 여로체나 나라 여로체나 코에데 나라라로 체나 나라 토로 체나 섬지 딘딩 성로지 따바케리아들이야 낙심 스리스 뇌심 세야데 간데르스나 시담의 셈 공도로 보지 봐주디 말에 토와도 그렇고 그 말에 야바도 되네 안 콜라야 바지 내가 이나라 레란도 가리나 맞고지는 콜라바 대 가르치고 있는 대 코야 냉랭을 마셔야 탑시 가르치고 있는 섬지 거기디 레차와 가리나 대 랑도마다네 콜라바 뇌심 지야 될이야 뇌심 스기요레스 아니 록다스야 되다 대나는 두슈디 다디 단대디 공그 구디지 정말 용사디 자와디 되는 로다나네 많이 구요래다 로다디 가르레스나 네 내년 뭐 집에 있는 나를 마음을 내년 뭐든 대부분이 봐 요야 대부분이 뭐 요야에 하고 봤을 때 요야 얘기 말해서 내내 통도 민도스네 되는데 아니 내 개와 집에 있는 대부분이 어디 요야 얘기 말했어 근데 개와 집에 다 요야 아이스 되는데 상도 되는지 개비 이미나 아니 내주대 상도마다 맞네 내주대 상도마다는 다다 공부 되지 찾아요 그러와 어디 전에 아니 미기 주스야 되다 근데 지금 이랬어 미기 주스야 돼 근데 이거 다들 어디 주디 밥방에들이야 아니 개와 주스 어디 됐어
So, and the three regarding three negative actions regarding one's mind. The first is Naksan, which is cognitive, which actually these thoughts are coming into being from one's attachment. And this again, lead to a cling to some certain object and long to have that particular object, even though it is not yours, but you long to have that particular object. Or any kind, something that you think that you want to own that, even though this particular object has its own honor, but you wanted to own that. And this is all, again, cognitive. There are different kinds of cognitiveness, divisions of cognitiveness, but in general, this is what is cognitiveness really means. And then the next one is the harmful thought, which we are all familiar with. We have thoughts that are harming others, verbally, and even sometimes physically, and mentally. You have mentally thinking that this person, maybe this person must not fulfill their wishes. Maybe this person would not succeed in whatever he or she is pursuing, and so on and so forth. All harmful thoughts, and so this is not. It doesn't require much explanation to it. Just harmful thought is harmful thought, and we all have it. We know it. And then the last one is loka, which is the wrong view. That is the most, which is the source of all those negative actions. Wrong view is the origin of all those negative actions of the body, speech, and mind. It was the wrong view that you have such a view that if I engages in negative deeds, and you will reject having a result with that is experienced by you. And if I engage in positive deeds, and you actually do not, accept the result that you may experience out of these positive deeds and so on and so forth, you're actually rejecting law of cause and effect. And you're actually rejecting the benefiting others will give a good result for one. So one will gain a good result out of benefiting others. And if, harming others will result to an experience of unhappiness for oneself and so forth, will completely reject it. It is due to these rejections, then other 9 negative actions of the body, speech, mind will be followed. So therefore, this loka or the wrong view is said to be the source of all those negative actions.
honest 다들 이미 기준이 가십사제 도면은 많이 시조가 다도 시사버 저 다도선 뭐지 줘야 되는 만화도데 조준돼서 안에 다가는 유튜브 지금 있을 때는 양 다기나보다 더 다기나는 요조다 뒤나보다 다 막보지 배제만고 신차를 배제만고 신차를 되게 마신 거 연말에 내한테 자기는 사발레나 아니 저도 그냥 미기 주스 잠깐씩 깨도 다들 가리 있는 선선을 신데 용용지 말 쉬우지스.
As I mentioned earlier, that I will not go through the actual detailed explanation of the basis, motivations, actual execution of the actions and conclusions because it's really difficult time. And then also, initially I thought I really don't have to go through the details of this 10 non-virtuous actions of body, speech, and mind because you have studied Buddha for a very long time that you all know. But then I thought probably there might be some who actually listening or watching the YouTube later. So some of them may not have idea of what those 10 non-virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind. So for that purpose, I have gone through the detail of those 10 non-virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind.
他对我来讲，强浪的都提醒给我意思了吧？强浪是对，浪是对怎么来的了？强的了嘛，我就有他强是对女性是对米经，叔叔让做嘛多吧，人的生命啊让做嘛多吧，你怕进西北呢怕去，绿呢怕去这个的来女性是的这个，他对了也强的了，注意强，绝对强是那样的嘛，我就了，我的。대래 창동야 대래 주도는 창만도 못해 아니 양 개화지 그랬어 근데 제대로 좀 몰라 창대 뭐기 다다 맞아 개념도 대 가사 가사 개념도 맨날 대가야 나다 대나라 대가도 제가 창대냐 지금 이거 지부지를 해시도 가르에서는 창기진 여차수는 안에 미디로죠 연구이나다 간절히 이미나 안에 배드 타마로 사료도 하고 랩세스도 수직이 찬조지 말와들 이내이나 안에 다등상기 주지의 두주되나야 창기직 신사수는 창동제 라스사수는 안에 못하다야 이나에 가리나 되는 수수소로 수수도 제무지야 수수소만 좀 미신다고 소가 제무지야라고 들으셔도 창대양 지가서고 네가 제부지 있어라.
So then it also says the turn away from intoxicants and their voice.